Hi, I'm Sonny Fox, and these are my friends. This is Ginger.
Hello.
And Pud.
Hi.
And today we're in Passaic, New Jersey at the United States Rubber Plant. Pud and Ginger, we're going to find out today how man has learned to take a sticky white substance called latex, and this is a bottle of it right here, which comes out of trees 10,000 miles away in Indonesia, how he has learned to take that liquid and by adding ingredients, turn it into some of the very useful and everyday products which we take so much for granted. Now, if you look over there, right up there, you'll see a display of some of these products.
Well, let's see, there's a tire and some golf balls, and some shoes, and some raincoats, and a big fire hose, and bathing caps.
Lots of other hoses, yeah. Well, rubber, as I say, is a very common commodity, Pud and Ginger, very useful. We walk on it, we sleep on it, too, and we ride on it, of course. And right behind us, you mentioned fire hose. That's one of the products that they make right here at this plant. And we're going to find out more about how they make hose like that from the superintendent of the hose division, who happens to also be our host for today, Bill Onderdon. Hi, Bill.
Hi, Sonny.
This is Ginger.
Hi, Ginger.
This is Pud.
How are you?
Nice to see you.
Awful noisy factory here.
Yeah. What's that popping noise?
Well, Pud, that popping noise is caused by the action of those mill rolls squeezing the air out of that raw rubber.
Probably like bubble gum. You chew bubble gum?
Well, yeah, sometimes. I'm not supposed to, but I do sometimes.
Then you must know what popping sounds like, because you know how much bubble gum pops, and that's the air escaping. Is that what's happening
You're on the
here?
right track there, Sonny. Actually, John DeMarco here is breaking down raw rubber like teeth do to a new stick of chewing gum so that other ingredients can be added to it later on. John, cut me a piece of that, will you please? Thank you. There's a piece of it.
Boy, that's hot.
Yeah, it is, and we have to be careful that it doesn't get too hot, because if it does, the whole batch will spoil, and we have to throw it out. Now, you see those rolls there are hollow. The water is continuously passed through them to keep them cool.
Bill, you've mentioned ingredients. I take it then that the latex that you get from the trees is only the beginning.
Well, that's right. Mother Nature never anticipated all of the things we want to make out of this rubber.
Pud and Ginger, then the story of the rubber begins way back then, 10,000 miles away in Sumatra, which is in the islands of Indonesia. You should know about that from our visit to the embassy. And out there they have rubber plantations, I guess you call it.
That's right, Sonny. Early in the morning, the native goes out to tap the rubber tree. This tree has been tapped many times before. He first removes that coagulated latex from the previous tap, and then with a very special knife, he cuts along through the bark of the tree down to the latex-bearing layer. Now, in a moment, you're going to be able to see that liquid latex starting to come down. There it comes, Pud and Ginger. You can see it starting to drip into the cup. Now, after several hours, that latex fills up the cup, and the collector comes by to empty them. This latex is brought back to the processing station.
Boy, that looks easy.
Well, it always does when the person who's doing it is skillful, as those people are. But I tell you, we'll find out in a little while how easy it is, because they brought a rubber tree right here into the U.S. plant. It's not quite as big as the ones out in the jungle, which go to about 40 or 50 feet. This one's about 8 to 10 months old. It's about 12 feet high, I'd say. But I think it's probably big enough to give off latex.
You mean this is old enough to give latex?
Well, Bill, is that right?
Yeah, that tree will give off some
Won't it hurt
latex.
the tree?
No, it won't, because the bark will grow back. Would you like to tap it, Pud?
Sure.
All right, well, here's a knife. Now, I want you to tap it like you saw that native doing, and cut a little cut in there, not too deep now,
Right
just
here?
through the bark. That's right.
Now, put this in, right?
All right.
Might be
you
yell
put the
timber
spout
any
in.
minute if he makes that cut much deeper. Now,
Yeah.
there it
There, you
comes.
can see the latex
Yeah,
starting to
right
come
over
out
here.
there.
Now, Pud, we could play you a dirty trick and let you stay there until you collect a full
Oh, no,
cup.
please.
No, we won't, because that takes quite a while, doesn't it?
That's right, and that's why on the plantations we have literally thousands and thousands of trees. Each native worker is responsible for maybe 300 trees. From that, he might get 50 pounds of liquid latex, which to about 17 pounds of dry rubber.
Well, we'll get it from the liquid to the dry rubber.
Come here, let me show you, Ginger.
This dry rubber, incidentally, is the state in which it's shipped here, is that
That's
right?
right, Sonny. It's shipped in the dry form. Now, here is some liquid latex, just like what you saw coming out of the tree. I'm going to pour it in here.
I think the consistency is about like that of heavy sweet cream, perhaps.
That's about it. Now here we have some vinegar or a mild solution of acetic acid. And I want you to pour that in there, and meanwhile I'll stir. That's fine.
It's coming hard.
Now it's started to coagulate, and I'm going to squeeze this out like they do at the plantations. I mean, they do it there with big squeeze rollers. We have what we call coagulum.
Your rubber
Yeah,
ball
it bounces. Yeah, it really does.
Well, of course, the Pud and Ginger out there, they have much larger amounts of rubber to deal with, and they have to use, I suppose, larger equipment.
That's right. They have much larger equipment, and the natives bring in this latex into the processing stations, and there they pour it into the big vats. You can see the adding of the latex into the vats here. Then here, Pud and Ginger, you can see the natives with the acid pouring it in. This
They
is
really
just
use
what we
large
did
amounts
a moment
there.
ago. Now here is the coagulum going down the water trough. It takes several hours to have that large vat of latex coagulated.
This represents a lot of rubber trees.
It certainly does. Now that coagulum goes down in a continuous strip until it comes to the squeeze rolls. There they are there, and they're squeezing the moisture out of that latex. It's about 2/3 water, really.
No point in shipping water. You can get that here in unlimited amounts.
That's right. After the water is squeezed out, this continuous strip is cut up into smaller pieces because we're going to make smoke sheet rubber here, turn it into a smoke sheet. There they're cutting it off, and it will be racked up to be pushed into a smokehouse. There they are, putting it on the racks.
Looks like they're hanging out their wash.
Yeah.
That's right. Now, after drying in the smokehouse for 2 or 3 days, the rubber is brought out of the smokehouse and is turned from that white color to sort of an amber color. They then bale it up and wrap it with another piece of smoke sheet. Bring it to the loading stations where they load it.
Look at those things bounce. They go, whoa.
That one.
They'll have fielder's gloves.
Boy, I'd hate to drop them.
Well, now they get put
There
on
it goes.
ships, huh? And
Yeah,
they
up
go
in the cargo
on
net
across,
for delivery to factories just like this factory.
across the Pacific and through the Panama Canal and up the East Coast right here. And here's Indonesia, it says right there. That's where it came from, and here are a few bales. What does it look like
That's
on the
right.
inside?
Well, here is a piece of the smoked sheet, Pud and Ginger. You can see that with the marks from the squeeze rollers. Now here's a piece of pale crepe. This is just like the other rubber, except instead of smoking it, it's dried in the air in the sun.
It's like hard paper.
Well, that's right.
Well, now here you have your rubbers just come into your factory here, and you're ready now to start turning it into something useful to mankind. What do you do first, Bill?
Well, actually, Sonny, this rubber is a little big to go into our rubber machinery, and we have to cut it up. It goes into a cutting machine where the rubber is cut up into smaller pieces.
It must be a pretty big machine that does that.
Well, that's right. From there, it goes into the... Well, here you can see it coming down the chute into the big rubber cutter. It's like a big vise, Sonny. See, those razor-sharp edges cut the rubber into smaller pieces. Here's a piece of that rubber that is at one of these bales a moment ago, and it's been cut up, and you can see the layers of the smoke sheet that were packed in there at the plantations.
Okay, well, now you got it down to a manageable size, even though it's still pretty heavy. What now?
Well, our next step is to put that rubber into a Banbury mixer.
Well, what's a Banbury mixer?
Well, a Banbury mixer is a pretty big piece of equipment. It goes up about 2 floors, and I think we can best describe it by showing you this diagram. Actually, the Banbury mixer takes the rubber and makes it soft and pliable so that other things can be added to it. We start off up here with the hopper, where the man loads in the raw rubber. It goes down to the rotors, where it's torn apart and warmed up and made soft and pliable.
These things turn around and
That's
grind
right.
it up.
Then it drops down onto a sheeter mill at a little later stage.
All right, well, now, that's the diagram of it. Can we actually see this Banbury in operation?
Now, let's see that man dump in the raw rubber that he has just cut up. Here he goes, loading into the hopper the raw rubber for the pre-break.
That's a whole story above us, Button Ginger. That machine starts out like that, and it's grinding away and getting it ready for its first process.
See, the door is closed and the ramp comes down on the Banbury mixer.
Now, what's going to happen to that rubber in the Banbury mixer?
Well, actually, it's going to be all made soft, like that mill is doing over there. This is so they can add different chemicals to it.
Was it kind of like a recipe?
Well, that's right. Every rubber product that we make has a different recipe, just like a cake has a different recipe, a chocolate cake or a white cake. And we have some pretty interesting pieces of rubber here made with different recipes. I'd like you to take a look at them.
How many different recipes do you have?
Oh, we have literally thousands of different recipes. Now, Ginger, if you'll take those identical weights and hang them on those pieces of rubber that all look the same now, I think you'll be surprised.
Now, these are all the same length to begin with, these pieces of rubber, but they were made of different recipes?
That's right.
We shall see now what different effects they have. Now, I think, Ginger and Bud, you can see what this yeah, you see the difference of the alignment now. Yeah, I suppose this shows the elasticity of it.
That shows that has a much greater elasticity than the one on the end.
So if you needed a rubber product that had a lot of elasticity, you would use this recipe.
That's right.
And if you needed one that had very little, you would use this one, which you really, even I can't make stretch very much.
All right, Ginger, here's another little trick I'd like to show you. Actually, it's not a trick. These are two rubber balls, and I'd like you to try to bounce that one and just see how you do.
Well, that's fun.
All right, now
that's a
try to
good
bounce
ball.
that one.
What happened?
See, that's the result of two different rubber recipes.
So if you wanted something with very little bounce, it would be that recipe.
That's right. Now, Sonny, if you'll put that piece of rubber there on the floor, I have something here I think that Pud and Ginger are going to like.
Just stretch it out, huh?
All right. Now, Pud, this is a raw egg, so be careful. I want you to hold this up over your head as high as you can reach, and I want you to drop it on this sheet of rubber.
Wait a minute, you want me to break? It's going to break.
No, if it breaks, I won't ask you to clean it up. Ginger, you see if you can't catch it after it bounces.
Here. Oh, it just got
Okay, try it again.
Now, you sure that egg is really raw?
All right, well, you try it, Sonny. See if you can hit that thing. Oops, careful.
All right, here I go. Uh-oh.
Oops. Well, you see, Sonny, the reason that egg didn't break is because this is a piece of cellular rubber.
And the concrete is not.
This is made up of thousands of tiny little separate air cells and makes it a terrific shock absorber.
Well, that's a good recipe for rubber. Now, if you have a good recipe for an omelet, we're in. Talking about recipes, though, now, we were talking about the fire hose before. What would a recipe for a fire hose look like?
Well, here is a recipe card for the fire hose.
You would pull this out when you had to make fire hose.
Right.
And, no butter or eggs or...
no, we start off
there.
with the 272 pounds of number 2 smoke sheet. Then we start to add the other chemicals to it that are going to make this rubber tough. We're going to make it last a long time. We're going to make it easy to work with in our process. Each one of these chemicals has a different function.
Up to now, you haven't added any ingredients. It's still been the rubber that you've been grinding up and getting ready for adding the ingredients. Does that happen also in the Banbury mix?
That's right. We're about ready now to add some of the various chemicals to this pre-broken rubber. So let's take a look and just see what happens up there.
That takes place upstairs.
That
right?
takes place up on the Banbury. Here we have the man with his tram car very carefully weighing out the various chemicals that go into the recipe. There's a scale. Check to see if they are correct. After all of the chemicals are in his hopper, he moves it over to the Banbury. Dumps down into the Banbury all of those chemicals. Now this same operation can be performed on this small mixing mill here. It takes a lot of skill to mix on the mixing mill. The ingredients have to be put in just right, and the time element is important. Now, Pud, would you like to put some of these chemicals in here?
Yes, I'd like to very much.
I wonder, can Pud give you a hand here?
Sure, so you can.
What do you got cooking?
We have whiting here.
What does he do?
Well, it's a filler. He can throw some in if he wants.
Stick my hand in?
Yeah, careful.
Don't you measure out the amount?
Oh, these are already measured out.
I see. Well, Ginger, you want to try a handful?
Careful.
Put on it.
All right, here you go. Well, we've been doing our bit for U.S. Rubber here, Bill. Now, what is going on here with this mill, you say, is exactly what's going on inside the Banbury. The rubber and the chemicals are being mixed up inside that huge two-story machine. How do you know when it's finished?
Well, on a Banbury mixer, just like in your kitchen where you mix up a recipe, you have a clock. We have a time clock on the Banbury mixer which tells us when that recipe is ready. Now, as soon as the time clock comes to the right moment, we drop the recipe down. The trap doors in the bottom of the Banbury are open. And the raw rubber batch drops down on the sheeter mill.
Ah, we've come quite a ways with this rubber. It started out as latex in a rubber tree. 10,000 miles away, it was coagulated into sheets, pressed into a bale, shipped here. We've sliced it, chewed it up, kind of warmed it up, put in the ingredients, and now we're getting ready to get it set for manufacture.
That's right. As soon as that is on the mill, the man sets his knives and runs it up the conveyor through the cooling tower. You can see it going up the conveyor where water is sprayed on it to take all of the heat out in the mixer. And there it comes down through a soap solution, because this is still raw rubber and it will stick to itself. And through a cutting knife where the slabs are cut up for delivery to the production department.
And now she really is ready to make use of, according to whatever recipe it's been. Now, I presume that's been a recipe for your fire hose. Now, how do you go about turning this raw rubber, which is now ready, into a fire hose?
A fire hose, Sonny, is made in a very fancy way because it's a quality product. A life might be at stake if the fire hose were not good. The starting of fire hose starts with a warming of that batch stock that you saw on a warming mill. It's then put in to a special machine, and 3 plies of rubber come out of that machine, one on top of the other like plywood. They then
What's
run
that white stuff?
That's soapstone to keep it from sticking together. These 3 plies run under a forming device which forms it into a tube.
All right, it's now become circular.
That's right.
And is on its way to becoming a fire hose.
Now that goes along through a bath of water to cool it off, and is cut up into 50-foot lengths and then put on a tray to be pulled into the vulcanizing. There it goes on the vulcanizing carriage into the vulcanizer.
Now, what's the purpose of vulcanization? It's treatment by heat, but what is it
Well, that's
supposed
right,
to do?
Sonny. Vulcanizing changes this rubber, which in the summertime, when it's raw, is soft and sticky. In the wintertime, it's hard and stiff, into one that is permanently useful. Well, that's about 274 degrees temperature in there. That is steam temperature, and we leave it in there for about 10 minutes for what we call a semi-cure. Now, this tube is semi-cured so that we can handle it later without it all stretching apart. Here we see the heat that was in just previously coming out. Those are 50-foot carriages, and they have to be moved out. Now, here's the other one being moved in. Now, after that tube is semi-cured, it's going to be rolled up and brought back to another machine. And we're going to take that semi-cured tube and we're going to fold it around that tube a raw rubber backing.
In other words, this is a fourth ply, in effect, of rubber.
That's right. And this fourth ply, or this rubber backing, will tend to adhere that tube to the jacket in the final cure. Now here we're rolling it up here because it is raw and would stick to itself.
Now, you say we started with the 3 plies. Can you show us that?
That's right. Now here's a cutaway section of that, and we've made these plies come out separately purposely so we could show you. There's 1, 2, 3 plies of tube, then with this lighter backing over it to make it stick to the jacket.
On the other side, it's all bonded together.
That's right, because that has all been cured.
So that's the way it comes out after it's been vulcanized, semi-vulcanized.
Semi-vulcanized.
Well, now, this doesn't look anything like fire hose. Fire hose, as we know, it has this kind of a overcoat over it.
Well, that's right, Sonny. The overcoat we actually call a jacket. And that jacket is made up of over 400 individual pieces of string, which are woven together. Now here you see the creel, all loaded with these cotton strings.
You do that right here, too.
That's right. These creels are loaded and fed up through the ceiling to the floor above. The strings go into the large circular loom, which weaves the cotton jacket. There you see the loom going around, weaving the jacket. See the shuttles going around inside the circular loom.
Now, there comes the jacket out, having been woven.
That's right, it'll come out and be reeled up. Now we have the next step, which is a very important step in fire hose, and that is 100% inspection of this jacket to see that there are no imperfections. Here we have a sharp-eyed girl checking to see that each one of those jackets is perfect.
Again, Captain Ginger, we might comment again about the fact that lives will depend upon this working every time. You can see how carefully that's checked.
Now these jackets are moved over to our lining table, where we're going to bring the tube that you saw made a moment ago and the jacket together.
Now that ought to be quite a trick. When you have a little man who works here and runs with the tube through the jacket?
Well, actually, we lay the jacket out 50 feet, and we run through the center of it a bayonet-type rod.
What?
To that rod is fastened the tube, and it's pulled back. Now you can see it going in there, pulling the tube inside the jacket.
There she goes, like a little mongoose through a pipe.
Right.
Out the other end.
Now this tube and jacket are rolled up. And they're brought over to a special treating tank, which has a chemical in it that makes the cotton resist mildew. They're put in that treating tank for about 20 minutes and hoisted out and put in to a big centrifuge.
That's to dry it off. A centrifuge is like a clothes dryer that spins. It's the spinning action which gets the moisture out of it.
No, we have one in the hose. Yeah.
I don't think it'd be big enough to handle a 50-foot length of hose.
Now here is the vulcanization, the final vulcanization. The hose is laid out on the vulcanizing table, connected to nozzles, which pull it back and keep it under tension, while 50 pounds of steam is run through the inside of that hose.
In other words, up to this point, you really still have 2 separate units. You have the rubber tube and the cloth exterior.
That's right.
And now you're trying to make them into one complete unit.
One complete unit. Yeah, that's about 2 degrees temperature there, that's steam temperature. It'll be left on there for about 15 minutes. The hose is then brought over to the coupling table where we put the fitting on that attaches the hose to the fire hydrant. That is done with an expansion ring. The ring is expanded against the inside of the tube, holding the tube and the jacket to the coupling. Now we come to our final step, and one of the most important, and that is 100% pressure test. The hose is hooked up, and it's filled with water. Make sure it's tight there. Now we fill it with water, and then we apply 200, 300, 400, even 600 pounds, depending on the specifications, to be sure hose is perfect.
Look at that ride like a... That's right. It's like a snake.
right.
Tremendous, there's tremendous pressure in something. And that's the last step?
That's the
There you
last
are,
step.
all
Here we
done.
are with the completed hose, ready to be sold to fire companies throughout the nation through our Eureka Sales Hose brand.
Well, Button, we've come a long way into turning a raw material, a sticky white liquid that oozes out of trees in the jungles of Sumatra, into a useful tool that perhaps will help save lives here or anywhere in the country. We want to thank you, Bill Underdunk, for showing us around the U.S. rubber plant here in Passaic and being such a nice host.
Sonny, we certainly appreciate your coming.
Thank
Ginger,
you very
nice
much,
to have met you.
I sure learned a lot
Bye,
about
bye.
rubber today.
Okay,
It was
good.
very interesting.
Bye.
Bye.